What's going on, everyone? This is Bolaji, and welcome to Data Career Transformations, the show where we watch analytics engineers, data analysts, and data scientists transform their career. Do we have a transformation for you today? She is a former telecom engineer who leads the data team at Not on the High Street. She's worked in various engineering and management roles in both startup and corporate environments. This isn't what they want to hear. Let's give them what they want to hear, Jessica. She's an award-winning food blogger who shared recipes and restaurant reviews in South Africa. She brought Mexico its first earthquake in 30 years. How do you do it, Jessica? She became a data leader almost by accident. They hired her to lead a team of 2. She adopted a team of 5. Oh my goodness. She scraped property websites in South Africa as her first official data job, and she has 2 11-year-old sausage dogs that she brought on that trip from South Africa to London. This is what we want to hear about. Please help me welcome the data engineering manager at Not on the High Street, all the way from Joburg, South Africa, by way of London, Jessica Franks. What's up, Jessica?
Hey, Bolaji, how are you?
I am doing exceptionally well. I'm glad we've got you in the seat today. This is a great pleasure. Tell us about this earthquake, Jessica. What do you have this? Do you cause mayhem everywhere you go?
I mean, I didn't cause the earthquake. I just happened to be there at the same time.
This is what someone who caused an earthquake would say, but carry on.
So it was my first trip to Mexico. So it was in my previous career that wasn't really data related. I was part of a team that kind of sold software solutions to telecoms operators. So we were in Mexico trying to sell a telecoms operator our software. So I was there for a 3-week period. We had been going to the offices, like having a lot of chats with different people. And the day before, we had a lot of earthquake drills. So every year on the anniversary of their previous earthquake that they had in the 80s, they do earthquake drills. So we had just practices.
Wow.
I was like, oh, okay, they just do it as a kind of memorial type thing, just keep
Right.
everybody on top of it. Then the next day I was at a shopping center, went into a restaurant to have lunch, sat down, and all of a sudden, like, things were moving and like the light fittings were moving. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, what is happening? And like, nobody really seemed too worried. And then the staff in the restaurant started panicking. And I was like,
Wow.
oh, okay, we panic. And it's like, get everybody out so you're not in a building that could potentially collapse. There were like glass panels falling from the shopping
Oh
center.
my gosh, this was
I've never
serious.
been in an earthquake before. Like, we have earth tremors in Johannesburg, like that was the extent, but nothing like serious buildings are falling down type thing. And we weren't quite close to the epicenter where I was in Mexico City, but we were close enough that it was quite impactful. My heart was racing. Couldn't go back into my
Wow.
hotel because like everything was like chaos. Networks were jammed. I couldn't really like get a hold of people to be like, oh my God, I'm going through an earthquake. Am I going to die? So yeah, kind of sat in the parking in the shopping center and waited for the all clear for us to go back inside. And yeah, that was the rest of my trip. I had basically just spent it in the hotel because they were doing disaster recovery. Like, that was the end of the business trip. We weren't going to like push ourselves on anybody while the whole country is dealing with an actual disaster where millions of people were impacted. So yeah,
Wow.
crazy. I went back to Mexico a second time and there was no earthquake the second time. It was a successful trip. So
Okay. Maybe it was correlation instead of causation.
just really bad timing.
We'll reserve judgment on that one. But that's fascinating. Jessica, you have had quite the journey in arriving at this current position where you are managing a team of data engineers, data analysts. You almost are kind of breaking the mold here. And I want to walk through your origin story a little bit because it's very atypical. Your first 10 years as a professional, you were not in data.
I wasn't in data, so I didn't have data role, but data was a part of my job. I think data is a part of everybody's job, but it wasn't like I wasn't running SQL queries necessarily. I was doing a bit in my kind of second role that I had because we were selling software that did quite a lot of like, now that I think back on it, it was quite data focused. The software engineers for that software had a proprietary kind of ETL system where they were getting data in. Then we were transforming it, but it wasn't data is like in the modern data stack that we have now. So I was quite exposed to data and I've always used data, but I didn't have like a data analyst title or a data engineer title. I was a pre-sales manager. I did demonstrations of software to people around the world
Right.
wasn't necessarily like, I mean, I wrote a bit of SQL, nothing crazy like I'm writing now. I had never heard of a window function before I started studying data a little bit more in depth. But yeah, I spent 10 years and there's nothing like demonstrating the same software on repeat to kill your soul very slowly, right? I hated it. I dreaded waking up. Like the last year of my
Oh
like
no.
role in telecoms, I was just waking up every morning thinking, do I have to go and do this? And at some point I woke up and realized you don't. You don't actually have to do this. You can change your career because like roles in telecoms were very few and far between because I'd been looking for something new
Mm,
and there wasn't
mm,
much. It's a very small industry. Yeah, there just wasn't much for me to move into. I was like, okay, I have to change
mm.
something. And they were talking about data science and this hot new career. So this was back in 2018. So it's like, oh, the sexy career of the future. And I was like, okay, I want a
Hey.
sexy career.
All right.
So took time off to study data science. So ended up taking 6 months, like a bit of a sabbatical, I guess, and just
Mm,
intensely studied Python and different SQL courses and
mm-hmm.
like joined different communities and attended meetups and kind of really immersed myself in trying to be a data person. So
Wow.
yeah, really, really wanted to change what I was doing. I hated it that much.
You were motivated.
I was motivated. There's nothing like deep sense of dread to make you want to change your life.
For anyone who has been there, this is resonating right now. There is nothing like it. And there's nothing like feeling like you're trapped, like you have no way out. The fact that you took 6 months off, I recognize not everyone has that luxury, but you
Yeah.
didn't just take 6 months off and fire off resumes. You actually upskilled yourself.
Yeah, because I knew I tried studying data science while I was working or like doing Python courses and stuff. I just didn't have that motivation. Work was taking up a lot of my time. It was like
Mm,
finding that time. But yeah, I'm really fortunate that I'd saved up enough that I could take 6 months off. And like that was a calculated career move for me. And it
wow.
wasn't easy because when I did eventually land my first job in data, I started at the bottom again. So I had had a
Hmm.
10-year career working my way
It's
up
true.
and I had to start at the bottom again, which is quite humbling. But the acceleration from that point, because I already had working skills, it was just a new
Wow.
kind of technical skill set that I had learned.
Wow.
I guess that's why my data career accelerated so quickly as well.
Wow. Wow. I want to walk through, Jessica, with your permission, your LinkedIn or your resume, just the most recent job titles, and maybe paint the picture of how you made those jumps, because a lot of folks might feel stuck at the level that they're at. Maybe they're already in the data industry, but they're trying to figure out how to get to the next level. So you built a successful career in the telecoms engineering industry, maybe not the most fulfilling for you, but you put 10 good years in. Your first data job was data analyst at Lead Home, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
And then data scientist, also at Lead Home. You did that for a couple of years. Then senior data engineer. All right, we're moving on up at Paystack. And then the management position at not on the high street data engineering manager for the last couple of years. You first of all checked almost all the boxes under data. You've done data analysis, data engineering, data science. Make up your mind, Jessica.
I think I thrive on novelty. I like doing new things, but yeah, I would call myself a data generalist. I kind of wanted to understand everything. I've probably found my like niche or more of my happy place in data engineering. It kind of fits with my
Mm,
skill set a bit more, but I had no idea all of these data roles existed when I first
right.
started my like career into data. I'd heard about data science and how cool data science was. So I was like,
Yes.
let's go do that. But like when you start trying to do data science and then the data's not in the right format or the data doesn't exist, then you realize step one, data engineering is kind of important. I was just naturally
Oh.
doing data engineering without even knowing that's kind of what it was called until I'd like spent a bit more time in the data world and like, okay, that's what I'm doing. That's what that is. So
Wow.
yeah,
All
I
the data
need
engineers are standing up and cheering right now. It starts
yeah.
with us.
Well, it does. If you don't have the data and the data's not in the right formats and it's not clean enough, then there's nothing you can do on the data. You need data in order to do the data science.
This is true. This is
Yeah.
true. Wow. So you found your way into being a data generalist. I'm really interested, Jessica, in this, your most recent position, not on the high street, how you were hired to manage two data engineers, was it?
Yeah.
And then day one looked a little bit different. First of all, before we get to your first day on that job, because I want to walk us through all of that, the transition from Johannesburg to London, was that prompted by being hired by Not on the High Street? What caused the move?
So the move was kind of caused, so we had lockdown, right? And
Mm-hmm.
spent a lot of time indoors and a lot of time in South Africa. Couldn't travel very much. And my boyfriend and
Mm.
I were, but again, bored. Clearly, I get bored often. Bored of South Africa and looking for something new, something more exciting.
Yes.
And
Yes.
my grandfather was born in Wales and he moved to South Africa when he was 3 years old. And the UK has a ancestry visa, which you can apply for if your grandparents were born in the UK. So I was lucky enough to be able to apply for an ancestry visa. And with an ancestry visa, you can work at any company. So I then was like, okay, I want to move to the UK. I can get a visa. I don't have to worry about looking for a job that would sponsor me. Let me see what data jobs are available. And I sent
Okay.
out loads of applications, changed my LinkedIn to make it look like I was in London. And yeah, I had quite a few interviews with a range of different companies and ended up with 3 job offers that I could choose between. So they were for like analytics engineering positions.
Mm-hmm.
But the one at Not on the High Street was the most interesting to me because it was a team lead position, which the other 2 job opportunities I had weren't. And it was
Nice.
also at a fun company. Like they sold cool things on the internet. Like that's really
Yeah,
cool.
so for people who aren't familiar, Not on the High Street, tell us what that is.
So Not on the High Street is an online marketplace for small businesses in the UK. So loads of small businesses sell their like handcrafted goods or their designed
Mm.
goods on our website. And yeah, we basically connect people with small businesses in the UK, which is really like it's a fun, exciting kind of place to work, right? It's not boring. It's not
And
like
it's not
insurance.
pre-sales telecom demos either. My goodness.
Exactly. It's like every day there's something new to learn and something new to investigate because you've got a
Fun.
wide range of partners selling different things on the website. There's new marketing campaigns coming in that you can investigate and analyze, new tools and new, like, it's exciting. There's always something new, which I think, as I said, I thrive on novelty.
This is great. So you came into that job excited, full of energy, motivated. You got a couple of engineers that are going to be reporting to you. What did you discover on day one?
Yeah, so day one. So yeah, I had applied for the job. They were like, you're going to lead the data engineers. And I'd met them in my interviews and I was like all prepped and ready for this. Like I just moved across the world. So then like
Oh
I
yeah,
was
that's
stressed as
true.
anything.
That's
Have to go into a new culture. Like UK working culture is very different to like African working culture. I come from a Nigerian company and now I'm working for a UK company. So like trying to like get the lay of the land. How do you talk to people? Quite the same,
yes.
can't be as direct. And yeah, the first day it was like a remote introduction because I couldn't go to the office because people in my family had COVID that we were staying with and we don't
Okay.
give COVID to new people on our first day of work. So
Ha ha.
had my first kind of introduction to everything. I had kind of a temporary manager at the time, and they were like, "Hi, Jessica, here's your team." And I was like, "Yeah, those 2 people I recognize as my team, the data engineers." But there were 3 other people on the call, and I was like, a little bit like, "Oh, what happened?" There was this like team of 5. Like lovely people, but like I wasn't expecting to. I was
Oh
going to
my
do like some
gosh.
very technical work. We're going to lead data engineers,
Yes.
revolutionize data engineering, and all of a sudden,
Yes.
here are some analytics engineers and a data scientist who also don't have a leader at that point because there'd been some restructuring in the company. The head of
Oh
data had left.
man.
The team leads for the different disciplines had left, and it was basically just a lot of disjointed people coming together in a team with someone who wasn't quite expecting to manage them. So
Mm.
accidental data leader, I guess, because I was only going to be like a team lead, not a manager for a whole data team.
My gosh.
Yeah, big adjustment. I think it took me a few months to finally get my head around everything and pivot from what I had originally planned, like how I was going to do the role. And yeah, it was a scary challenge, but it's been a good one. Like I feel like I'm in the groove of things now. I work really well with my team. I kind of
Mm.
understand everybody and what makes them tick a lot more. So,
This is so
scary.
fascinating to me, Jessica. New company, new country, new leadership role. And from what I understand, I had the privilege of listening to one of your other talks. You mentioned that maybe the previous data leaders hadn't left you all the documentation that you
Yeah, there
might
was
have.
like no real handover. There was some like contracts I had to handle with third party suppliers. That was like the main thing. It was like, you just need to reduce costs. I'm like, oh,
Okay,
all right, I
got
can
it.
do that. But there was no diagram of the data architecture. So like I had no idea all the systems involved. I trawled
Oh.
through GitHub repos and Confluence documents and chatted to people in my team to try and get a picture of what
Mm,
data at Not on the High Street looked like, because there wasn't
mm,
one. There was like maybe one or two small architecture diagrams for like very
mm-hmm.
small pieces of work, but nothing that kind of brought everything together, that we understood where is the data coming from, where is it going to, what tools are we using, what tools do we have, do
Mm-hmm.
we even use them, can we get rid of them, save some money. So yeah, I think it was quite a strange transition time in the company, because a few people left, but because they didn't really have anyone to hand over to, there was just no handover, there were no documents, or maybe if they
That's
are, they're
tough.
deeply hidden in the depths of Confluence and no one has
That's
found them.
tough. That's tough. I recall you mentioning that you actually Googled what is a data strategy.
So like, my boss kind of asked me, we need to put together a data strategy. And I was like, cool. All right, we can do that. I've never seen a data strategy before. I've worked at small businesses that there wasn't like anything that was like, this is the data strategy.
Right.
So like, obviously, I mean, what any good millennial does, we Google the shit out of everything,
That's
right?
right.
We have to know. Google
That's
everything,
right.
and the results are pretty awful, to be fair. Like, there's no ideal answer for what is a data strategy. Everyone has their own opinion.
Mm,
And a lot of it seems
mm.
like things that consulting companies would say. It's no like real actionable. Like I wanted a perfectly like package. This is the 5 steps that you would do. That doesn't exist.
Yes. Yes. Yes, this is great. So Jessica, we often in these conversations will take our guests through, they'll have them take us through some data disasters that they might have experienced. It almost sounds like your first day on the job, it's giving me earthquake vibes. It's like panels are falling down and what in the world? But it seems like you were really resourceful and trying to reach out and figure out frameworks or models or principles to help you organize and figure out the map.
Yeah.
What were some of the tools, Jessica, that you started to use to make everything make sense?
So Miro, I have a big whiteboard in Miro that I just started putting every bit of information I could find in those sticky notes. Like when you don't have physical sticky notes, Miro does a good job. There was a lot of like trawling through documents and speaking to people. So the
Wow.
team all had the knowledge, like everybody understood everything, but it was in each person's
Ah,
brain. So it's extracting that information out and putting it somewhere where you can now share it with a wider thing. And is this right? Like, this is what I've kind of gathered from our conversations, from these
mm,
GitHub repos. Is this like, do I have a correct interpretation? And
yes.
yeah, it's just learning to talk to people and kind of put a lot of different ideas and opinions and information pieces into one place. So yeah, I love a bit of whiteboarding.
But Jessica, as a data professional, I'm here to write SQL queries. I'm here to build pipeline. I'm not trying to talk to people all day. Humans, like, what are you doing, Jessica?
And I think that's where my previous career in telecoms and in software sales helped, because I had to
Oh,
do requirements gathering quite a bit from our
right,
customers and then take that
right.
back to software engineers and be like, this is what they want. This is what that means. Go forth and develop this feature for them. So I
Mm,
had that skill set. So I think it comes quite naturally for me. So
mm,
SQL's a part of it, but learning to communicate with people, I think, is a really important skill that everyone in data does need. As much as we all
yeah.
want to just sit and like, just give me the problem, I'll solve it, and leave
I
me
mean,
alone
that's
to
the fun
solve
part.
it,
Yeah.
I think speaking to people is very important as well. So you see
Wow.
now a lot of data problems have been solved by tools. We're not trying to like extract data anymore. We've got tools that do that. We're not trying to figure out the best way to run models in sequence. We've got DBT for
Mm,
that. a lot of the visualization tools now have AI where you can like, what were my sales for the past 6 months? So as tools are evolving, the technical skills that you need are kind of, I hate to say it, but maybe becoming a little bit more obsolete. So you have to learn to talk to people so you can actually understand the problems that they're having and actually address real life problems rather than just technical problems.
Wow. This is interesting. This is interesting. I want to share and talk through your data stack in just a moment because our colleagues love to sort of compare to what they have. But before we get there, there was one other framework that I've heard you mention using. I'd never heard of this before. Wardley mapping.
Yeah. So Wardley mapping was what I eventually settled on to kind of work out our data strategy. So
Okay.
in a nutshell, Wardley mapping was developed by Simon Wardley, and the way he came about it was he read a lot of books on war and strategy in war, and he was running a photo business at the time. And he was like, why is the business not making money? Like, what are we doing wrong? Where are the opportunities? And he mapped out the whole business and kind of saw areas of opportunity where he could focus on. So
Right.
Wardley maps basically start with like a user and their needs, and the user's at the top of the map,
Okay.
and things their needs or their like the things that are more visible to them are near the top of the map, less visible are near the bottom, and then kind of left to right on the map is more things around how evolved the needs or components that this user needs. I'm doing a terrible job of explaining this, but yeah, so from left to right, you've got like things that aren't evolved yet. They're very new, very novel. We haven't explored them
Yes.
yet. And then on the right of the map, there's everything that's very evolved. It's commoditized. You can just go buy an off the shelf solution to solve that specific problem. So you're able to take any concept and then map it out on this map and kind of see if something's in the commoditized section, don't really need to focus on it. That problem's been solved. Don't waste your time. Whereas if something's like more in the novel section, like how do we evolve it? How do we get this moving from left to right so it evolves? And then you can start to like find duplicates of things in your problem space. You can find opportunities. So yeah, I have a very more detailed talk on that, which is probably worthwhile people watching. But it was
Yes.
such a
Well,
like mind blowing moment for me to like,
I love that.
this is like, I've mapped it out and I can take my stakeholders through it. They can understand why I want to do certain things within data and why things aren't working so well with or like problems that they're having. And I can like show them the whole thing. It's a very visual way of communicating a lot of things at one time.
And stakeholders love visual, especially when we're trying to explain technical concepts. So this is fantastic. So for folks who aren't familiar, like I wasn't, Jessica will link to, if that's okay, we'll link to one of your other talks where you break this down visually and in great detail. So now let's go back to the stack. What stack did you adopt when you got to Not on the High Street?
So the current stack is Snowflake, Airflow, dbt, Looker, and Count. But when I got there, they had just transitioned from Redshift to Snowflake. So there was a whole migration. There were two dbt projects, both kind of doing similar things, but not really, and using things from each other. A chaotic mess. One running on dbt core, one running on dbt cloud. We had an Airflow instance that was in a managed hosted environment that kept failing every Thursday without like clockwork. It just stopped running things on a Thursday. So we'd be like, oh, they're doing upgrades again. We had Tableau as well when I arrived, and like they were transitioning from Tableau to Looker, but they hadn't finished that project properly. So we were paying Tableau and Looker licenses. So there were a lot of like transitions to a more modern data stack, but nothing had been completed. Like the ideas were all there, but like a lot of projects just had never been finished. So done a lot of work in the past 2.5 years to finish things, to clean things up. We have one dbt project as of this week, which is such a blessing for me because having two was a nightmare. So very excited about that. That was a long time coming. And yeah, no more Tableau. We're hosting our own Airflow instance now, so we're in control. It doesn't fail every Thursday. So that's much better. It's a lot cheaper
That's so
as
random.
well. Yeah, every Thursday
Oh
without
my
fail.
gosh. This is really helpful. So, a couple of things that I'm interested in based on what you've painted. I remember you mentioning, Jessica, that, well, Not on the High Street is an 18-year-old company. And so with every company, you can almost map out their data journey. I think you had mentioned that they started with a PC under someone's desk. in the
Yeah.
early day.
And the problem with a PC under somebody's desk is when the cleaning staff come in to clean the office at the evening, sometimes they may need to plug the vacuum cleaner in and it just unplugs something or mistakenly turns something off. So then the pipelines don't run for the day because the plug point was being used for something else, or maybe the computer has an update. So
Oh my gosh.
there were a lot of horror stories from the people in my team at the company much longer than I have. Yeah, it's evolved, and you can see that it's evolved over time, and I think it's in a good space now.
Wow.
Maybe some of my
Wow.
stakeholders would disagree, but yeah, we definitely we've had some ups and downs, but I can't even imagine but that's how a lot of data teams started.
That's
It's like
true.
some Excel documents on a computer under somebody's desk, and that was good enough.
That's true. That's true. You actually, Jessica, have, as you've moved companies from Lead Home to Paystack to Not on the High, I think you've worked with DBT at several stops.
Yeah.
Why has DBT, or how has DBT been valuable to you? How has it helped as you've evolved as a data professional?
Yeah, so at Lead Home was the first time I came across DBT. So I was always doing research into different data things. For a
Okay.
period of time, I was the only data person at the company. So I was doing a lot of things trying to figure stuff out. And I came
Mm,
across DBT. I was like, oh my God, this answers like so many of the problems that I was having. Like, how do you coordinate things? We were running a lot of views and getting Power BI to like kind of schedule things, and that's not ideal. And here was this
mm.
thing that kind of linked everything together. And I have a IT degree alongside my engineering degree, and it kind of brought all these software principles to the data world. And it's like, ha,
Ah,
magical. I like the structure. I
aha.
like everything about it. And funnily enough, my DBT experience at Lead Home was the reason I got my job at Paystack.
No
So,
way.
so because I had posted on my LinkedIn that I worked with DBT, and not many people had worked with DBT at that stage, it was quite a new technology, and especially in South Africa, there's not as big a data community as in
Mm,
the US.
mm-hmm.
The head of data at Paystack at the time was obviously searching LinkedIn for data engineers, and the reason they hired me was to introduce DBT to Paystack. So
Wow.
that was one of the biggest projects that I did at that company, was migrating all their stored procedures and views that were in Redshift and controlled by Airflow and not running in the right order, which was a disaster in itself. But migrating all of that into DBT and then training everyone within the data team to use DBT, giving people explanation. So we were using DBT Core. So it was like,
Yes.
how do you use GitHub? People had never used GitHub before. How do you use the command line to run DBT run? Like all of these
Mm,
new skills that people had to learn. The SQL part was the
mm,
easy part, the like changing your references, easy. But it's like
mm.
all the technical things that you don't necessarily learn as a data analyst or as a BI engineer.
Yes.
You're really good at writing SQL, but you're not so good at the like, how do I use a command prompt? Like it GitHub, completely new concept to like take people through. So it was, I think we migrated over like 150 models or something in the end, and testing
What?
it. There was a lot of testing involved, but I'm assuming they're still using it now, and hopefully they've evolved it a bit more. But it was such a nice thing to do because now we could make sure data was updating in the right order.
Mm,
So yeah, and then I just kind of worked with DBT now. I think DBT is quite an important part of a lot of different companies' data stacks now. It's kind
mm-hmm.
of just like, yeah, tick box skill, like that skill's evolved. It's pretty much sitting very far right on the Wardley map. It's commoditized. Most people should be able to use DBT, if not a couple of videos, and then you have that skill. So
That's wild. That's wild. What an incredible story. I'm always fascinated, Jessica, with the human side of big technology projects, the change management. Getting people to change their behavior, learn new processes is not trivial.
no, it's not. But you have to. So the way I approached it at Paystack, because like
Mm.
the data analysts were quite hesitant to learn new skills, but I
Ah,
framed it in the way that if you have this on your CV, you're setting yourself up for future career opportunities, because this is
wow.
a new, like, related to something that's important to them. If you say it's important for the company, they're like, but if it's important to someone, to their like fundamental beliefs or like their development, then they can be like, oh, okay. it's going to benefit me. I had better learn how to do this. And once
Mm.
they saw how easy it was, and we had a lot of sessions, like I did a lot of training, recorded a lot of videos, had a lot of documentation. And they knew they were supported every step of the way. There was no such thing as a stupid question. We're all learning. We're all trying
Wow.
to do something new. So
Wow.
yeah, I think relating it, like just make it important to someone so they're excited to learn about it. It's
See,
probably quite important.
I'm seeing some connections here. I'm seeing some of those food blog critic skills coming in, the writing, the communication skills coming in. We hadn't mentioned earlier, Jessica, but back when you worked in telecom, you actually took Spanish lessons so you could communicate with your customers in Mexico better. You've almost always seemed to have this user-centric orientation or stakeholder-centric orientation.
That's really nice to say. I never considered it that way. It's always like a new challenge for me. Like I see it like this person isn't understanding me, or I want to relate with them more. They speak broken English. I can speak broken Spanish. Like they trust you a lot more. When I was like the first time I said, I mean, my Spanish is absolutely terrible. I would never like advocate for myself in Spanish, but I could say a couple of words in Spanish to one of the people we were trying to like entice over to buy our software. And like from that moment on, I was his favorite person. Like just because I had
Oh,
taken that time to like learn a language and
oh
communicate with
my
them, I think it
gosh.
meant so much more. So it's like finding ways to connect with people at their level, like so they can, I think it's just kind of, yeah, understanding people a little bit more and understanding what makes them tick. Because I like
Yeah,
it when people take a little bit more consideration to talk to me. So I guess the same applies for
that's
other
fair.
people.
That's fair. That's fair. I like that a lot. And I think folks could really take that and run with it. That's really smart. Jessica, I'm always interested in people's influences. And in your story, you had mentioned early on that you had a mentor who recommended you evaluate the data maturity. I think this was at Not on the High Street when you first
Yeah.
started, perhaps. She recommended you were trying to piece everything together. She said, figure out what their data maturity is. She had given you a model, an actual model to use, purpose, people, methods, and tools. This is new to me. Could you unpack that conversation and what that model means?
Yeah, so I meet with my mentor I guess once a month. Initially, when we started our kind of mentor-mentee relationship, it was a little bit
Mm-hmm.
more frequent, but we've been chatting for quite some time now. So this was through a Stacked Pathways mentor program. I was a mentor on that program, but I also wanted to be mentored.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, I have a mentee, and I've helped her through some career transitions, but Ancha's been helping me. Like she's the VP of data at a company, so she's got a lot of experience. She's been in data her whole
Wow.
career, such a wealth of knowledge. And I was like, I've been tasked with developing a data strategy. I don't even know what a data strategy looks like. Like, and she pointed me towards a data maturity analysis. So if you kind of search for that on the internet, a lot of consulting companies will come and do this for you, but you know, you can just pick up some of the key ideas from it. And it's evaluating each of the areas within your company around these
Right.
four different pillars just to kind of see, is there more work to be done? Are you at a good
Right.
space? Which
Right.
also then ties in really nicely to the Wardley mapping, because if you're not so mature with something, you're very much on the far left early life of that kind of concept, that component. But if you've got that sorted, people are doing self-serve at the business, you don't need to train your users, everybody's happy with Looker, that kind of thing. That's far right. You don't really have to worry about it. Data maturity and that is like super sorted. So it tied very nicely into the Wardley mapping side of things.
Yes.
And she so great to like bounce ideas off of someone who's kind of gone through the same problems, because every company, the more you speak to more data leaders, everybody has the same problems. Everybody's gone
Oh.
through the same pain, so there will always be someone who can like relate to you or give you tips and advice. So building your community, I feel like, is really important, whether that be through official mentorship things or just kind of informal chats.
Wow.
It's always nice to commiserate through pain, and everybody
This
has
is
very
true.
similar painful stories. So it's kind of like a thing that can bring people together. Like, oh my gosh, I'm struggling through this. Does anybody have any
Yes.
advice? And people love giving advice. I think that's one thing
Wow.
I realized is ask for help, ask for advice. There is always someone who's going to be willing to give it to you, which I think is
Man.
been a really good thing for me because coming into it, my first data role, there wasn't much support. I had no idea what data really was. I relied so much on like forums and communities and things to like, I would ask the stupidest questions because I didn't understand it. So like, somebody please help me. And then like, because it was something that somebody could answer, then there was always like people willing to help, which was so nice. There's like a whole range of people that like, I know the answer to that. I want to tell you what that is. And you're like, yeah, and I don't have to sit and struggle for 3 months trying to figure this out by myself.
Hang on. This is non-intuitive. I want to dig into this just a little bit more, Jessica, because a lot of times when we feel new to a particular domain or space, we feel like a lot of our questions are stupid questions. I'm doing the air quotes if you're just listening on audio. We feel like they're stupid questions, and so we're hesitant to ask. Sometimes, particularly if it's in a public forum, sometimes we almost want to ask, we want to get intelligent enough to ask a smart sounding question. But what you've just highlighted, Jessica, is that if we're at level 1 of competency, and let's say it goes up to level 10, we don't want to ask that level 1 question in a public forum. But there's someone at level 2 who feels almost as incompetent as we do. And when they see our level 1 question, they're like, ooh, I know that one.
Exactly. It kind of like, it boosts the confidence of the next person. I think, especially in a remote environment, you have to kind of intentionally go out and seek knowledge. When we all worked in offices, it could kind of come a little bit more naturally. You would have conversations around lunch. You would get a cup of coffee and like chat about things. Somebody could see you were struggling and be like, hey, what's wrong? Can I help you with that?
Yes.
Those interactions aren't coming normally anymore in this like remote first environments. You have to be intentional about kind of creating them. If you look like a fool, you look like a fool for 2 minutes. Oh well, someone will forget. There'll be something else on the news that distracts people. You're only important for that little amount of time.
Oh my
and also,
gosh.
there's probably 10 other people who have the exact same thought.
Wow.
And how do you know that? I love
Wow.
my Apple auto reactions there.
That's great.
So yeah, don't be afraid to ask the stupid questions. Just ask them. Someone will answer it. And if they mock you for a stupid question, then they weren't worth the time anyway. Like it's a very immature thing for somebody to do. And most people in professional environments aren't that immature. They'll just be like, oh, okay, this is how you do it. This is where you find this information. So we were all there once. Nobody is born knowing everything. We all have to learn somehow.
Yes. That's super profound. And honestly, many of the profound lessons that I've learned throughout my career have not been super complicated. They've been truths that once you hear them, they resonate. They're easy to apply. I feel like this is one of them. And as an introvert, someone with an introverted personality, I've often been that person who is hesitant to ask that level 1 question in a public forum. What are people going to say? What are they going to think? How do I craft this so I sound smart? Like I know what I'm doing, but I'm just seeing if you guys know what. No, like just ask the stupid question, get the answer, make someone's day by them being able to help you.
Exactly. Like someone is always excited to share their knowledge with you.
That's great.
It's not, I mean, everyone says there's no such thing as a stupid question. Everybody has an opinion on what a stupid question is. So yes, ask the stupid question. Someone's going to be like, oh, they're so stupid. They don't know that. But then you've asked the question, somebody answers it. Now you know the answer.
Now you know. Oh my gosh. That's a mic drop moment, folks. That's a mic drop moment. I want to stay in this area just for a moment more, Jessica, and talk about handling stress or handling conflicting priorities. As a data professional, we've all found ourselves in that position. How do you tend to handle it when deadlines are tight? You're stressed out. Everybody wants everything all at once. How do you do it?
It depends. I mean, I have had like breakdown moments in tears.
Boy.
Need some like reassurance. But luckily, the older I get, the fewer and far between that is. But I think it's learning to step back, right? Kind of recognizing, once you've had burnout or like stress before, you tend to recognize the signs a lot easier the next time it happens. And like also having perspective on things. Like I don't on the high street, we sell cool shit on the internet. There's lovely gifts for people. But if something breaks, it's not the end of the world. It's just an e-commerce website. Like, you're not saving lives. It's not heart surgery. Like,
It's
It's
not an
okay if
earthquake in
things break.
Mexico.
It's not an earthquake in Mexico. Take a step back. We can figure it
Yeah.
out. People are going to be upset for a while, but something else will happen and then they'll get over it. We'll fix it. Like, it's always just learning, but it's really hard when you're caught up in that moment or like 50 people
Yes.
are like coming at you, like, I need this, where's this, I'm waiting for this. And you, like, it can be very overwhelming. It always
Right.
helps to have someone in your corner to like advocate for you, maybe to like, you can rant to them and they can make you like step back a bit, take a deep breath.
That's good. Oh, that's
But
good.
yeah, don't sweat the small stuff. Like we can, there's a problem, we can figure it out. If we can't figure it out, we'll find someone else to help us figure it out. We can get there. So,
That's good.
I mean, I think my team have taken a lot of this on board. We have failures and people stop panicking as much. I think previously we used to panic quite a bit and now it's just like, okay, it failed. Let everybody know that is an issue and we're working on it. We will keep you updated. It's a communication
Wow.
thing. Keep everybody updated, constantly communicate, and then people just need that reassurance that you're not ignoring them, and then you can like, okay. And also learning to
Mm.
say no. It's very, very difficult,
Ooh,
but
talk
learning to
about
say
it.
no
Talk
is
about it
important.
though.
So
And here's the challenge with that one, Jessica. It comes a little more naturally to some personalities. Some people are just wired to say no. Some people are wired to be more comfortable communicating their boundaries. And then there are others of us who maybe you're new to the space or maybe you are conflict averse. That no can be difficult. How do you build that muscle?
so I think we were forced to. We were so one of the big projects that my team was working on for almost over a year was a migration to GA4. And
Hmm.
we had a deadline, like Google was going to turn off their old Google
Yes.
Analytics product, and we had to be on GA4 and we had to have all our data models working to GA4. And we had a set deadline, like after that date, there was not going to be any old data. So we had to get to the point where we were fully focused on this project. We could not take on any other work. Like my team is very small. We had to fully focus on this. We set aside 1 day a week to kind of work on things that weren't GA4 and
Mm-mm.
prioritized accordingly. And during that time period, we had to say no quite a bit just for our own sanity, but also because
Right.
there was actually no time to do it. Like there was
Wow.
no way we could see getting something done. We'd be like, we can schedule this for our 1 day a week work, but this is the list of 10 other things we've got. So if it's more important than these 10 other things, sure, we can like reprioritize, but otherwise you just have to wait. So sometimes it's not a no, it's a no, not right now. And by the time you get to the right now part, it's the no was good enough and they've figured out somewhere else, some other way to do it, or they've got the information from somewhere else, so it's no longer that important. So
Mm.
sometimes just buying some time. The way we kind of handle
Mm.
things now that we have a lot more capacity to take on different requests is we plan a sprint and we try and stick to that plan as much as possible and take on as little unplanned work as we can manage. Obviously, there's always going to be
Oh.
something that's, oh my God, this broken, we should fix it. But it's like we can plan this in and we can do it in 3 weeks, we can do it in 4 weeks. And then just communicating, it's not possible now, maybe we can get to it later, or it's not possible at all. Sorry.
Yes.
You're going to be upset, and people are going to be upset, but nobody likes hearing the word no. So, yeah, just learning to deal with disappointment. Much easier in a remote environment, to be fair, because easy to type no on Slack and then like walk away from the computer and be like, oh, it's so great. But
Oh, that's
yeah,
hilarious. That's hilarious. So how much of your work would you say is maintenance, your team's work is maintenance work versus building new features versus sort of the reactive troubleshooting?
depends on the week.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think a lot of the work we've been doing has been like maintenance and improvements. There hasn't been much novelty, but just because of the nature of a lot of unfinished projects, we kind of had to
Mm.
finish them. I'm hoping
Mm-hmm.
this year we can start to take on new things. In the data science world, there's definitely a lot more novelty there. So we focus on a lot more new things in data science, less so in engineering.
Right.
So because now I'm responsible for all these disciplines, it's kind of balancing them all. So data
Gotcha.
science will need something and then that's kind of a new thing that the engineers can work on. But then the data scientists will go off and like do all the cool mathsy things and like come back with these cool new exciting things and the engineers are just like the
Wow.
query runs much faster and it's great for me. I'm like, that's so exciting. How did you do that?
Wow.
But our stakeholders don't care. They do care
Ah.
that they get they care. So when I first arrived at North, I love this. Data was getting refreshed. People could only really look at their new reports at about midday. It was 1 p.m., like a whole half day has passed, and then they could actually start looking at data. And that was just due to like really inefficient processes. Our data refresh processes were taking hours and hours and hours, and we had to wait for data from different systems. And over a year ago, we changed it. It was a focus of mine. And now, like, first thing in the morning, people have the data that they need to make decisions during the day. And that made such a big impact because now people didn't have to wait 6 hours before they could get their data. Like, they had it right away. So
no, this
that
is
was
great.
that was like a small win for my team. That was something optimization we made on the engineering side that had a direct impact on stakeholders, which is not something they always see, but that they could see, and I could explain it to them. I took them through what we had done and why it wasn't possible in the past and why it's possible now. And they were thrilled, and now everybody's really happy. Now when data, like if we have an issue with the data pipeline and things are a little bit delayed, everybody's like, but where's the data? I need it now. And you're like, we've got you accustomed to a different way of life.
That's right. That's right. Oh my goodness. This is delightful. I love to hear of these wins. I'm curious and I'm cognizant of the time, so we got to get Jessica out of here in a couple of minutes. But I'd love to hear how you measure the impact of your work on the business, considering when they brought you into Not on the High Street, they said reduce cost. That's your mandate. A couple of years in, how are you measuring the impact of your work?
It's always hard to like measure impact, but I do have like a nice anecdote. So we've introduced the metric tree to the company last year, which is kind of a different way of visualizing the company's performance. So they've been always focused for years and years on a certain metric called total transaction value. And that's kind of like what are people spending in each transaction on the website.
Okay.
But that doesn't have an indication of like actual value to the business because we spend a lot of money on marketing, on promotions and things to get people to the website. Yes. And we only take a small cut of the sales anyway because our partners get the majority of the money from that we're, because it's a marketplace, right? We're not manufacturing anything.
That's right.
So out of that small percentage that we take from them, we're then also spending loads on marketing to get people to the website. We have promotions like get 10% off that we fund. That's not a true reflection of like how well the business is performing. Yes, we got a lot, but we spent. So if you make £10, but you spent £5 of that marketing the product, I mean, was it a worthwhile use of your time? Or vice versa, you spent £5 on the product, £10 of marketing, like that wasn't worthwhile. So kind of shifting the business, and we did that with the metric tree. And now my like moment was in our last quarterly update, the commercial director took everybody through how the company had done in the last quarter, because like December Christmas period is our busiest time of year. And she used everything that I'd been trying to communicate for weeks and weeks with this metric tree. And she used it in a presentation to the whole company. I was like, yes, success. My goal has been achieved. People actually are getting like the other metrics that are also very important for the business to look at. So I was like a small, that's how I've measured success. We have done it. Because there's no like official metric. It's just kind of feedback from other people and watching change happen. So yeah, that was exciting.
Yes. We love to hear these wins. After the data disasters, we need some of these pick-me-up stories. That's super encouraging. Let me ask just one final question, if I may, Jessica. This has been a complete delight. Aspirations. Where do you see yourself 5 years from now in the data industry?
Well, I think AI hasn't taken over my role completely, but ideally I'd like a head of data role at like a small impactful company that does fun and meaningful work. So I like Not on the High Street. It's quite a fun place to work. We work with fun things. So yeah, that's kind of what I aim to be. I want that head of data title because for some reason I feel like that kind of ticks a box for me.
Yes, go for it. I love that. This is amazing. Okay, folks, we've been talking with the Jessica Franks, award-winning food blogger and critic, creator, accidental data leader, and big fan of the Wardley mapping method. So definitely we will link to her talk on that. You should check it out. I learned a lot from this one. I hope you all did too. Jessica Franks, thank you.
Thanks for the time, Bolaji.
All right, folks, we will see you on the next episode. Bye for now. This show is brought to you by DBT. DBT is the industry standard for data transformation. It allows your team to prepare data for analysis in a way that's centralized, modular, and entirely open, all inside your cloud data platform. The outcome? Consistently dependable analytics for your organization. Now, the DBT community was built for and by data pros. Come hang out and transform with 70,000 of the brightest analytics engineers, data analysts, and data scientists in the world. With DBT, you transform your data. With the DBT community, you transform your data career.